Welcome to ReThink You, bringing you ideas, inspiration, and motivation to start living the life you were created to live. Here is your host, author, trainer, speaker, and coach, and founder of ReThink You, Kim Levings.
Well, hello and welcome back to the ReThink You podcast. Here is another episode of hearing somebody's story of success. And I'm really excited today to introduce you to Ene Obi, who lives in the UK. And, for almost 3 decades now, Ene who has worked in human resources for global and corporate organizations, including HSBC, Visa, Shell, and Goldman Sachs, just to name a few, then AstraZeneca. So some big organizations. But like so many of us in our corporate journey, increasingly Ene felt that pull on her heart to do something more meaningful and more impactful. And in a bold move in January 2020, she answered the call and discovered her gift. So Ene helps women who are ready for their next level, but perhaps feel stuck and unfulfilled. And they go from asking, now what, to writing the next chapter of their life and unleashing their greatness in the world. So you can understand why Ene's mission really resonates with our message here at ReThink You and what I do. So without further ado, let me hand over to you, Ene. And what a fabulous setup you've given me there. So there's got to be a great story behind us. So let me give you the microphone and say, tell us your story.
Hello, Kim. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today, and I'm looking forward to our next few minutes together. So yeah, like you rightly said, I've worked in HR, or I worked in HR for almost 3 decades. I worked in for big global corporate organizations. I was, privileged, if you like, to be given the opportunity to work with some of the best in the field, in the sectors that they were in, Visa, AstraZeneca, Shell, Goldman Sachs. We're talking of organizations that literally roll off the tongue like a corporate who's who. Increasingly, Kim, I felt a tug in my heart. I felt a voice in my head, or a void in my heart, tugging away, telling me that there's more for me to do, that my life should not consist of just HR in the corporate world. And I'm going to share something with you, Kim. Somebody said to me last year, when you leave this earth, how would you want to be remembered? And that was what gave me the biggest kind of aha moment, when I thought, what am I doing? What am I actually doing? But before then, I've actually jumped ahead, because even before then, as I said, this voice in my head had been there for a while, and I was feeling increasingly unfulfilled or decreasingly satisfied in my jobs. And I knew there was more, but I didn't have the courage, Kim. I didn't have the courage to step out and do me. Why, you might ask? Because HR in the corporate world was all I knew how to do. And I pegged my success, my accomplishments on that particular hook on the wall, because I thought that was all I could do. And then in January, on the 29th of January, to be specific, of 2020, I was in a meeting that started at 5:30 p.m. UK time. It was dark, it was cold, and I had a meeting with a senior business leader who essentially thought that he had the right to eat me alive because he wasn't going to get his way, because he was a business leader and HR's role is to essentially give them what they want. And when I pushed back and told him that, we do have a due diligence process to follow, and he would have to toe the line, and I even dare to venture that he may want to take his head out of his little siloed world and look at the big world of the whole organization, because life doesn't actually stop in his own business unit, right? And all hell broke loose. And he was ranting and raving, Kim. And at first I thought I was going to lose my mind. I literally thought I was going to lose my mind. And I worried because working in HR, it would have been completely inappropriate for me to say the things that were going on in my head. But suddenly, I don't know what happened. Calm just came over me. I think it was like the light bulb moment in my head that just said, this is your moment of escape. This is what you've been waiting for. You know how it's like, imagine a tap going drip, drip, drip. And there's a final drip. And you think, well, just one drip? But it's not that drip. It's the constant drips that have been going on for years. And all it took is the final drip to just say, enough. And at the end of the meeting, that's what I said. I just said, not today. And I got up, Kim, and I left, and I didn't look back.
Wow, what an incredible story. And you know, I just feel that with you. I love what you said about the dripping tap. How many of my listeners are feeling in their lives that, you know, every day there's just that one more thing and one more thing. And how much longer can you keep up avoiding what you feel is your bigger purpose? So that's just a powerful scene that I could imagine and live with you. And especially, you know, having also been in human resources my whole life, as I said, you know, we're always trying to be politically correct and give business leaders what they want, but at the same time, try and stay legal and fair to employees. Not the easiest job in the world, but you're now ready to help other people do the same. So tell me a little about what's happened in your life since you stepped out. What are you working on? What's the big picture mission? And what are you excited about now that you set yourself free from that situation?
Oh, Kim, that's such a beautiful question. So it took me a while. After I left, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. And even that is a story in itself, because when I finally found out what I wanted to do, it kind of struck me like, was that really a surprise? Did you really not know? Because I believe that purpose leaves clues. But anyhow, I landed on what my life really, I believe, is all about. And in July of 2020, I signed up on the Les Brown Power Voice program, and came exactly 2 months later. I'd never spoken publicly. I'd obviously spoken at work. I'd given presentations and you know, at town halls and stuff like that, but nothing more, nothing bigger than that. Anyhow, 2 months after I signed up to be mentored by Les Brown, I was one of 20 speakers who spoke at his first virtual summit. For me, Kim, that was the biggest tick of 2020. That was God saying to me, you're home. You're finally home. Yeah.
So true, so wonderful. And I know I felt the same way, those of us who've been blessed to speak at the summit.
Yeah.
And how did that translation, because I know that our mentor Les has a way of just giving birth to our story and understanding the power and the message that we bring to the world. And how are you packaging that in what you're doing for women? You know, or is it just for women, or what are you doing in terms of living out that purpose?
You asked really great questions, Kim. Really great questions. So I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be totally vulnerable here and say, it took me a while to package my message. I knew what my message was. I didn't know how to deliver my message. And I tell you why, Kim, because I was scared. I didn't want to be known as a lady who encourages other women to leave their jobs. That was my biggest fear. I really was scared of being tagged, or she told me to leave my job, because that's not what I want to do. I want to inspire women to rise to the biggest, fullest version of themselves that exists in however expression that is done. And if that means leaving your job, then that's your decision to make. but that's not me telling you to do that. So it took me a while to package my message, as I said. But the more I heard Les Brown, our mentor, talk, the more comfortable I felt, because he says it all the time. He says, yes, be the best you can be, and do what you need to do to be the best you can be. And that gave me the authority, the empowerment to say, actually, you know what? If that's what you want to do, then that's what you've got to do. But you need to make sure that there are plans in place. So if you fall, you've got a safety net. So that's what I say. It took me a while, but I got there in the end. I got more confident. I got more empowered. And I started to use my voice. And guess what? Guess what, Kim? I'm going to share something else with you. When I came out as a speaker, I came out on Facebook and on Instagram. I didn't do it on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn was where my professional image was, right? I can see you smile, you know what I mean? That was where my professional image was. So I was scared to put myself out there. I'm gonna say something. When I did post my very first post on LinkedIn, was only a few weeks ago, 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, having gone out, if you like, on Instagram, on Facebook, like in July. My first ever LinkedIn post was only a few weeks ago, and I will tell you, I got more engagement from that one post than I've ever done on Instagram or Facebook. And that tells me that women like us are feeling the pain that we have gone through, and they need help.
Absolutely. That's so good. And it's interesting that you say that, because, as I said, we're walking similar journeys. And I, for the longest time, also have been active on Facebook, recently stepping into Instagram. And it's interesting that you say that the LinkedIn continues to be the kind of buttoned up professional image and business network. And only recently have I started cross-posting so people understand who I am. So I really identify with that. I don't want to make this about me, but I'm so excited for you, because I think that more of us need to be vulnerable, because there are businesswomen out there that are, as you said, living in this pain. And it's not necessarily to leave your job, but to thrive where you are and to find your purpose in what, as you said, whatever that looks like. And yeah, you don't want to start a movement of people quitting. But I also know that, in terms of our lives, and as we go through stuff, specifically in the corporate world, and I know certainly in the HR world, what are some of the lessons that you feel that life taught you along the way of your corporate career that actually you're going to be able to turn around and leverage as assets? Because I always say every opportunity, every difficulty in life presents a lesson. So what lessons are you taking forward into your new chapter that previous chapters have perhaps blessed you with?
Where do you come up with these questions from? My word, you're such a great interviewer. I thought of 3 things, but as I heard you speak, a 4th one came to my mind. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share 4 things. Thank you. The first one is accept responsibility. I think it's really key that we stand up, we show up, and we own up. It's our life, and we only have one life to live, Kim. It is so important that we take responsibility for where we're going. It doesn't matter how you got to where you are, is what I always say. And I used to say this in the corporate world as well. It doesn't matter how you got to where you are. The fact is, you are where you are. But what you do from here on is totally your responsibility. So take stock, regroup. I like your word, rethink, and step out. But do step out. This time, you're the one in control. The second thing is believe. Believe, believe, believe. It's absolutely key that you have faith that things will work out in the end. Because, Kim, without faith, you might as well just give up, quite frankly. because faith will fill you up when your natural reserve is running low. That's how you carry on. My third thing is trust the process. I have had so many challenges in life. The reason I say I worked in human resources for almost 30 years is because for a few years, I took time out when my kids were younger. I took time out to be a stay-at-home mom, and I started a business. And that business failed monumentally, leaving me thousands and thousands of pounds in debt. That was one of the lowest, maybe even the lowest point of my life, Kim. But for the grace of faith or belief and just trust in the process, I probably wouldn't be here today. Because on a couple of occasions, Kim, I seriously considered doing something foolish. Yeah. And trust the journey. Seriously, just trust. I can't, especially for us women, because I think I don't want to be sexist, but a lot of the time for us women, we need to have all our ducks in a row for us to see how something's going to happen. And sometimes you can't even see the next step, but you just need to step out in faith. Trust the process. The fourth and final thing I'll say, always be grateful. Wherever you are, believe me, things could be worse. Always be grateful. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Right. I love that. Thank you so much. But I wanted to go back because, as you saw, I hurriedly grabbed a pen because I knew that something great was coming. And so I want you to just recap your first point where you said stand up, show up, and there was a third one.
Own up.
Own up. Thank you.
Stand up, show up, own up. Yes.
That is so powerful. And as I said, and as you pointed out, this resonates with ReThink, where we regroup, reframe, refocus. It's about showing up. So just some powerful lessons. Let me recap, because I know sometimes listeners are driving and they'll want to go back. So, the show up, stand up, own up, regroup, and basically step out and take ownership of your life. And just so important, because as I often say to my clients, I can't want something more than you want it. And, you need to be hungry, as Les likes to say. And then that belief and faith, trust the process and trust the journey. Just some excellent points. And, again, I know I'm going to put you on the spot a little in there, because I know that behind each of those, there's a story. But if you had to choose of those four, I know you gave us a little glimpse there of a failed business that left you with lots of debt. And I've also bumped my head a few times and walked away from what is now ReThink You, because I didn't see the success. I didn't see it happening, and I would bail out on it. And I think many people do that. And it's interesting, as you say, we don't want to be sexist. And at the same time, we want to acknowledge that women in general tend to have to swim uphill a little and prove themselves. They have to do that much more. And I think that with that comes that fear of wanting to have everything figured out before we step out. So I'm very appreciative that you drew attention to that, because part of faith is stepping forward and knowing that the solution will appear when you need it and not have to have everything figured out. But as you reflect on that list, what other lesson would can you share any stories of life that really proved that point to you? Maybe that stand up, show up, and own up. What happened in your life to teach you that lesson? If you can, because I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but I love hearing the stories that bring the lessons.
Yes, I would go back to my business failure. I think that was my biggest stand up, show up, own up, because like I said, for many weeks, I thought there was another way out of that problem. What kept me going, Kim, was that I had very young children. My boys were very young at the time. And it was my mom, my late mom, bless her, who said to me, if you do what you're thinking of doing, who do you think will be able to raise your boys as well as you do, or as well as you can? That was all I needed to show up.
Right.
And own up. And deal with the mess that I had gotten myself into, so that, and this is the beauty actually, Kim, this is the beauty. Les Brown says something. He says, your story is not a burden. It's a weapon. It's a blueprint that you can use to help other people. What I say, you throw it back to other people who are coming along the journey that you have been on, and they cling on to it for dear life. And you use it to raise them up and take them through that journey.
Yes.
And if that is all that mess that I went through can help me do, for me, it's a really big deal to help somebody going through that. So I can say to them, you'll be fine. It's not permanent. And never, ever solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution.
Excellent point. Thank you. And so true. We do sometimes, when we're living in the here and now and in that reactive state of mind, sometimes we make permanent choices, as you said, for a temporary solution. Been there, done that. That's my story. So, let's sort of take a different direction and, say, based on all of this, what gifts and talents do you have within yourself that have kind of risen to the surface? I often call them the cream that comes from all that churn. The gifts and talents and strengths that rise to the surface that you've become aware in yourself, that you are now leveraging also to help others, because not just our challenges, but also our strengths and our gifts position us. It's part of that blueprint.
Yeah. One of my biggest strengths, Kim, is I am the source of truth. I've been told I'm the source of truth. I say things as they are, and I help people. You know how very often I'm at work and I'm in the middle of a group of women just giving life advice. That has nothing to do with what we're meant to be talking about, right? We're having a coffee, and it's meant to be just a casual coffee. We meet up at the coffee area, and I'm often starting to give advice that nobody asked me for. And then other women join, and before you know it, it becomes a little mini coaching session without me even realizing. It's just me running my big gob and just doing what comes naturally, right? So that is one of my biggest strengths. And now I want to use it formally to carry on doing good, but actually now hone it and develop it and say, you know what, this is me. It's who I am, it's what I do. And I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to rock it because it's a skill. It's not a challenge, even though previously I thought it was. I thought I just couldn't keep my mouth shut. Now I'm like, you know what, it's okay. People want to hear my voice and I'm going to speak. So, yeah.
That's fabulous. Thank you. And what you said actually adds to another question or another comment I was going to make that before the question, that often what we think is something that just comes to us naturally, as you said, that, the gift of the gab. And I said to someone the other day, I said, I'm a coach and trainer at heart. I equip people. That's what I do. So when I open my mouth, I teach. When I open my mouth, it's just how I'm wired. So as I said, I'm loving your story because I could see myself in it. And at the same time, I'm thinking to wreck it for listeners to think about, well, I don't have any gifts or talents. I would say the same thing. It's like, what do you do that you do so well that you think everybody does, that others don't know they say to you, oh, that's fantastic. And you're like, well, I've just always done that. What do you mean? You didn't know that? So that's normally a clue that it's a strength or talent within you. And I know those words have different meanings. And so I'd encourage everyone to hang on to what Anae's just said, that each of us brings that gift. And I recognize, and I'm sure you're going to recognize, if you haven't already, Anae, you'll see this. I remember the first time I saw somebody make notes when I was speaking to them and how that made me feel. And I thought, wow, they're actually writing down, and they actually said, well, say that again. That was good. I want to write that down. I'm like, really? I was so surprised. So I'm sure you could identify with that. What are some women perhaps, or people that, I don't want to exclude men, but what people have you run into that you've just sort of naturally helped in that kind of conversation? You've given us an example in the workplace, but perhaps some other examples of how you've impacted those around you.
Right. So, Kim, to be honest, I impact people around me without me even realizing. I impact people in the supermarket. I impact people on the train on my way to work. I impact people at parties. If you see me at a party, it's always the same thing. I walk into a party, I don't know anybody, but soon, very soon, I've gathered people and I'm talking. They just seem to I say something and again, I don't mean to be sexist, but I'm going to speak to women because I am a woman and that's where most of my experiences come from. So I don't mean to exclude men in any way, shape or form. But you say to a woman, I love your dress, for example, and she's typically going to say to you, oh, this whole thing, oh, it's nothing. Oh, and then she tries to deflect the compliment. And I will always say to her, you know what? Own it. You look nice in that dress. The color suits you. Rock it. Accept it. I have no reason to pay you a compliment because I don't know you from anywhere. I don't want anything from you. So if I say it, it's because I see it and I feel that you should hear it. So own it. So I think, yeah, it's about, I just love to empower women and for them to know that they're beautiful no matter how they look. It's so important to me, Kim. And I don't know whether it's because I don't have daughters. I have sons. I have two sons. I have no daughters. I feel it's I can't impart this to a child of mine because I don't have a daughter. So I almost overcompensate by doing it to any and every woman I see because I haven't got any female that is so close to me. But can I just respond to something you said a little while ago about people who don't know what their gifts are? I just want to say something really quickly about that because that is something that resonates with me. Up until very recently, up until last year, I didn't think I had any gifts because I thought that my gifts had to be tangible, physical, like baking or gardening or art or cooking. And I can cook and I can bake reasonably well, but I have no desire to do either of those things every day for the rest of my life. I can't garden to save my life, and I can't draw I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. You give me a ruler, pencil, it still won't be straight. I didn't realize that I had gifts just in other ways. So I want to encourage your listeners, Kim. You have gifts. You have gifts. You have more gifts than you could ever imagine. Whatever you are meant to do, you are resourced for and you are fully equipped for. Find that thing that you do and own it and rock it.
Wonderful, wonderful advice. Thank you. And so true. I've just loved engaging with you. And, as we wind down this conversation, my normal final statement is, as listeners kind of walk away from having heard this, what would you like them to remember about you? And what would they say, gee, I learned something today, and they succinctly put it into one statement. And I also want to hear from you as to how listeners connect with you. Obviously, whatever information you've given us will be in the show notes, but I'd love to just hear what you're up to. What's on your get done list right now? How do people engage with you?
Thank you, Kim. My message, clear, concise message to women is stand up, show up, own up. You have greatness in you. Find that greatness and share it with the world. How can people connect with me? My website is www.ziano with a Z. So the Americans say Z, but in Britain we say Z. ziano.co.uk. And I am writing a book right now, which will be published in the next few months. And it's going to be called Your Life is Waiting. And it's about women showing up and taking their place on earth and rocking that greatness.
Love it. Love it. And I know that there are some great books coming from folks,
Yes.
and I love that title. So we'll make sure we include that information. And this has just been an absolute pleasure. You've blessed me. You've warmed my heart. And I hope that you will continue to be part of the Rethink You community as we all help each other reach women and people all over the world to step into what they are called to do.
Kim, I thank you. I would love to be part of your community. Your story resonates with me. We are kindred spirits. I would love to walk the rest of your journey with you and have you walk the rest of my journey with me. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Ane. Okay, bye for now.
Bye for now.